Hi, I'm Gil. This is Burkland Gardens. Today we're going to do some upsizing or shifting up of trees. And the reason we do that is the trees will grow into this pot. They'll begin to circle, the roots themselves will begin to circle around the pot. And it's best that if we can catch it as early as possible and straighten those out and get it into the next size up. Also, it just increases more vigor. The tree will do better when it has fresh um, potting media inside the new larger pot. So we're going to start with a couple of conifers here that we've got. You can see that, at the same time, when I'm doing this, I'm also taking advantage of a couple different things. I can clean out old needles here, and this is the time of year you will get. There's several times a year you'll get older needles that'll be coming off. They just die on the inside. They get shaded out, and even evergreens, the needles only last on the tree for typically about 3 years, sometimes shorter, sometimes a little bit longer. So get those cleaned out, get good airflow going on here. This is a mugo pine called Sherwood compacta. Talked about that before. It's really a very, very nice pine, or mugo pine with smaller needles and dark green foliage. So first thing I do when we're getting ready, we've got a hitchhiker here, a little snail. Those snails came in, they were introduced to our area, and now they've pretty much infested everywhere around here. The story that I heard years ago, 15, 20 years ago, that someone was going to, have a escargot business. It failed, they got loose, and now we have them everywhere in our landscape. So I'm going to pull this out of the pot, show you that we've got some nice white roots growing here. The pot is nice and compact, and the first thing, I've got a weed here. I'm just going to take that off. I have a pot that I use just to keep all the weeds in, and they'll go into a compost pile. So brush that off. Sometimes I see weeds down that are kind of hiding. I see one that's barely see it. I'm wearing gloves today because this bark, especially when it's dry, it gives you lots of slivers, and so I go home with slivers a lot of times. But I think about having my gloves on. The nitro gloves actually work quite well for doing this as well. So I've got that cleaned out. I'm going to use a improvised tool. I have other tools that I use. I use my pruner sometimes. I'm just going to use this long spike and just do a mild. This one isn't super compacted, but we're going to. Now this is the same thing if you were going to repot this in a nice ornamental pot, a clay pot, or a wood type pot. You would do the same thing. You'd use the very same media that I'm going to use for repotting today. So we've got that's good enough. I have any long shoots. This one isn't bad at all, but you can cut those off. And my thought is, and I think this is true, that as you cut some of these roots, that they will divide and become more fibrous root systems. So I can also see, as it's kind of laying over, I'm seeing a little bit of dead. And if there was a branch there, I might cut dead branch off.
Used this time of year?
It is. So since they're in a pot, you're not taking it out of the soil and disturbing the roots. And what we're doing here is just a light roughing up of the exterior of the tree, and we're not really disturbing, um, cutting roots that have gone way out into the soil, like if you did this in the ground. And it's been well watered, so it fits all those criteria. So the time of year, yeah, it works quite well. So we're going to find the next size up, which I'm looking for a 5-gallon pot on this one. We could use a 2 or a 3. I have a kind of a large size perlite in here. That's what was available to me, but I'm happy with that for now. And I've put a layer of that in there. I'm going to see how far we have. How I want the top of the pot, and I'm going to take a little bit out to come up a little bit. I'm going to put a little more bark media in there. I'm using bark and perlite. You can put some lime in there too. And if it was in the spring, I would mix fertilizer in with it. I might. So I've got it sitting about where I want right now. And I just take another pot with the bark, and Sometimes you use the 1 gallon pots, they're a little easy to handle. Start shaking that down, turn it around, pack it down with your hands. I also take a tool like this and just poke a little bit and get some of the air out of it. And this is going straight into the bark. I'm not hurting the roots at all. Gonna need one more. Spin it around, shake it out. This is the same media you want to use in your ornamental pots, like I said. So whatever type you're using. So this is what you want to use for trees and shrubs. Just about there. I just need a little bit more. I have some on the table here. I'm gonna get rid of that empty pot. Take some of this bark media, finish it off, pack it down. You can also bang it a little bit just to get that settled. So now we've just taken that, and it'll take a year or two to fill in this pot here. To get it really tight, it'll probably take 2 years, but it should be the end and filling in this 5 gallon pot. It's called a squat 5. There's 5 gallon pots that are a little higher and a little bit more, not quite the diameter. So I'm going to take it over to the cart. Well, actually, I'm going to look for the other thing I'm doing this year. I'm going to grab this this material here. These are cedar shavings that come from a mill, and I'm just going to top dress this. So it'll do a couple things. Cedar shavings will retard weed growth, and it'll also help retain moisture. So it'll do a double duty on weeds and moisture retention. We'll take this over to my little electric cart, and I'm going to go, just so I don't lose track of this, I'm going to use these little labels, sticky labels, and this is so I'm just going to give it a common name today, mugo pine, and that's Pinus mugo. If you wanted the botanical name, we'll go ahead and put that on too. So Pinus, and mugo's not capitalized. That's the species, that's the genus, the species. And then a cultivar name, you put it in parentheses, and it is Sherwood compacta. Hope I have enough room to get to the end. Another parentheses, and then I'm going to put the price on here and put the sticker on it. If I sell this to someone right away, I would tell them they're getting a tree that has just been shifted up, and so that they can make a decision whether they want to buy it or wait till next year. So a tree like that in a 5 gallon pot, I'm going to ask $125. And this time of year, right now, I'm going through a sale period through the rest of the year. I'm going to take 30% off of that, so it'll be well under $100. So peel that off. So I'm using a number 2. This is a more of a drafting type pencil, I believe. You recognize that pencil, Max? But it's a number 2 type lead. So pencils actually work quite well, and they don't fade like even the permanent markers do. So it works good for marking. So I also have a label machine that I can print labels and tie them on to the branches here. So we've got other ones to do. I'm going to do one more tree because this one's in a grow bag. I don't have too many trees left in grow bags, but we're going to go through that process as well. We're going to continue on with a tree that's still in a grow bag, and it's going to be a little different process. I'm going to need to strip this grow bag off, and we're going to see how it goes. We have a green penguin, Pinus sylvestris, a Scots pine, and what I'm going to do is just take and go ahead. Should have a nice sharp knife here, and I'm going to make a few slits in this fabric, and then I'm going to roll it and make at least 2 or 3 more. Start here at the bottom, and don't cut yourself. You see the roots will grow through this bag, and those roots will eventually die. So we're going to be cutting the roots on the inside of the bag as we peel it back. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside for a minute. We've got, usually at the top, there aren't a lot of fibrous roots. And this is regular soil that comes from our field here. So it's a little heavier than the bark media. But as we put in a new pot, we're going to use bark media. So this one peels off quite nicely. So we're going to see about the rest of it. It's nice and wet. It's holding up. Sometimes I have to use my pruners to, cut the roots as we go along. And I'm probably going to have to do it on the bottom. I'm going to set this. I may use this 5-gallon pot. I'm not sure yet. I'd have to use a 5 or a 7-gallon or a 10-gallon for this one here. We don't have. Brush out old needles, get rid of those, and get the rest of this pot off, or grow bag, not a pot. Well, this one came off really nicely. The root ball is, the whole root system is holding together nicely. And I'm going to leave that just the way it is. And I'm going to look for the right size pot. I've got a garbage container somewhere around here, right over here somewhere. I'm going to leave. Oh, there it is, right there. This one here's a number 7, I believe. So on the bottom, if you're never quite sure of the size, I don't know if we'll pick it up with the camera or not, but sometimes you have to clean it off so you can read the writing. And somewhere on here, it'll have the size. There's the name of the company that manufactured it. Oop. And 7. So that's what I expected it to be. And I'm going to put some of this bark into the bottom of this pot like we did for the other one. I'm going to add some more. One more, I think, and I'll give it I might have too much in there now. We're going to see. So that's a little higher than I want it. Take a little bit of it out. Usually I can come pretty close. Sometimes you get a little too much in there. Take it out, or you just add a little bit. But you want that top of this plant right here, where the soil level is, to be pretty close to the top here. I am putting that cedar shavings in now, and I'll leave room for that. Even that out on the bottom. A little bit high. I'm going to take it down a little bit more. Actually, should have stopped me from putting so much in there. Okay, I think we're close now. This will compact a little bit too, so I'm not too worried. I don't mind taking a little of this topsoil off. That's about where I want to be. And then I just start filling the space around the edge of the pot. And at the same time I'm doing that, I'm also just kind of checking to see how straight the tree is. And this is an easy time to do that, where you can do some shifting and filling in on certain sides to keep the tree you want it looking pretty straight. This is, in the bonsai world, looking for movement, a certain kind of movement. But typically on your ornamental trees, you want them looking straight. I think I can get some over in here. Pack it down with your hands. You can also use that little nail to I'm using a spike to kind of take the air out of the area of the bark there. So this is a bigger pot. It's taking a little bit more of this bark media. We're real close now. And you do this again with your ornamental pots. you want to have enough space that the roots can grow out. It can be a little bit bigger. You don't want to get too large where the pot's going to hold more water than the tree can handle, and the roots would get more saturated with water than you want them to. So we're getting down there about where I want it to be. This is nice and compact. We will get some fibrous root growth here, but that's most of your roots are down a little bit lower than this. And then get it good and packed. And then we'll just add a little bit of this cedar mulch. It's kind of a little bit windy today, and this is light material. It's not wet right now, so. And also, this wood is going to darken up, but right now it's nice and bright, and it actually gives it a nice appearance. So we'll put this on the cart. This is my green penguin. I think I mentioned that when I started out, but one of my old-time favorite plants, as you might know by now. So I appreciate you following along with this repotting. Just thinking if there's anything else I need to say about some of the potting videos I've done in the past have been the best viewed that we've had. People are interested in putting their plants in containers. Also, you can set up a drip irrigation system. I found that online, on YouTube, you can go to Drip Depot. Of course, your box stores carry a lot of this material, but they have lots of good instructional type videos, and then they have the materials. They've set it up, and you can buy it individually or in groups where everything comes. You need a timer, your different size lines, backflow preventer, so pressure regulator, all those items. So, and that way, if you're on vacation or just so you don't forget, you have your low volume water system watering your trees all the time when in the watering season. So I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope this was helpful, and hope you join us in the next video. Thanks. Bye.